Welcome to the SCV Law and Life podcast. I'm Mason Rashtian. Each week I sit down with people in the legal world and beyond to talk about the strategies that are actually working for them in law, in life, and everything in between. Real conversations, real lessons, and ideas you can actually use. Let's get into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the SCV Law and Life podcast. I'm your host, Mason Rashtian. Today, I'm excited to welcome Amira Hasenbush to the podcast. Amira is a highly respected family formation attorney whose practice focuses on adoption, surrogacy, sperm and egg donation, and complex parentage matters. She helps families navigate both the legal and emotional aspects of building their families through assisted reproduction and adoption. Beyond her legal practice, Amira is a highly nationally recognized leader in this field. She serves in leadership roles with the Academy of Adoption and Assisted Reproduction Attorneys, the National LGBTQ Bar Association, and the Society for Ethics in Egg Donation and Surrogacy. Before entering her private practice, she conducted groundbreaking research on LGBTQ law and policy at UCLA's Williams Institute. A UCLA School of Law graduate who also holds a Master of Public Health degree, Amira has been featured in major publications, including the Los Angeles Times, Time, ABC News, and the New England Journal of Medicine. In 2023, she was recognized as one of the National LGBTQ Bar Association's 40 Under 40. Amira, thank you for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So I know I gave you some background, but I'm sure there's a lot more than that. So can you please tell us about you and what you do?
Yeah, so I think you covered a lot of it there, but I'm one of the founding and managing partners of a law firm called All Family Legal. We're based in Los Angeles, and we serve clients all throughout California and sometimes all over the world, just depending on how the case goes. I handle our family formation practice. So like you said, that's adoption, surrogacy, sperm donation, egg donation. When there is an emergency related to somebody's embryos, sometimes I'm the person people call. I deal with a lot of aspects of complex parentage. So who are the parents of this child who came to be in some unusual way? I deal with cases with more than two legal parents sometimes. I deal with cases with single parents, platonic co-parenting. And we focus our practice on LGBTQ families as well. So we have a lot of expertise in making sure that those families are protected.
So how is it that you came into doing this type of law?
That's a good question. So I went to law school not planning to be a lawyer at all. I thought lawyers were terrible people, and I had no intention of practicing. I have my bachelor's degree in public health. And as you mentioned, I got my master's in public health as well. I got that together with my law degree. So straight out of undergrad, I was an asthma health educator in the Oakland public schools. And 18% of kids in Oakland have diagnosed asthma, or at least at the time that I was teaching, that was the number. And I felt really strongly that if you built houses next to freeways, if you stopped building houses next to freeways or freeways next to houses, that probably a lot of people would get a lot less sick. And so I had planned to go to law school to do public health policy work. But over the course of my law school career, I took classes on sex reproduction in the law and children of LGBTQ parents, and thought a lot about how there's sort of a health aspect to surrogacy and egg donation and sperm donation. And I could be working in a field that's always legally developing, ethically interesting, medically interesting. And if I focus on LGBTQ families, I'm getting to work with an underserved community. And so my last year of law school, I said, I guess I'll be a lawyer. And that's how it started.
Got it. We can use your health science because we have a landfill close to where I live, and it's one of the ones that's giving people a lot of problems.
Yeah, these are serious concerns.
Yeah. So how do people come to you? Do they find you through an agency, or do they contact you directly?
People come from a variety of places. Sometimes fertility doctors will refer folks over. Sometimes it's a surrogacy agency or an egg donation agency that will refer people over. Sometimes it's other family lawyers. Often somebody goes to their divorce lawyer and says, hey, I need a sperm donor contract. And the divorce lawyer says, I don't know how to do that. Talk to Amira. Sometimes it's friends of friends, former clients. So people really come in many different directions.
Obviously, I know nothing about the type of law you do. So I'm really fascinated. So you have to excuse me because I am very novice in this field. So how do people get started? I mean, what's the first step they do? I mean, how does this come to fruition? I mean, what do people think about when they first want to do surrogacy or adoption?
Yeah, so each case is a little bit different. So for surrogacy, for example, first the question is, do you have embryos? And so then we have to look at the intended parents. Can they make egg and sperm that is viable and usable in a pregnancy? And if they can, are they going to go with a fertility doctor and make embryos? If they can't, are they going to use a sperm donor or an egg donor? They have to start thinking about whether they're going to use a donor from a bank or a known donor or a directed donor. So a donor from a bank is somebody who's banked their sperm or eggs and they're in the freezer just waiting to be, picked up by someone who might need them. A directed donor might be somebody who you don't know personally, but an agency has matched you with who will donate to you. A known donor might be a friend or a family member. And we have to start with contracts for that.
Okay.
Question.
Okay. So you guys put the contracts together for them to do the work or
That's
whatever it needs to be done. Okay. And you said, and what geographic area do you guys handle?
So I'm licensed to practice in California, which means that all of my cases have touched California in some way. Sometimes the donor's in California, sometimes the intended parents are in California, sometimes the fertility clinic is in California, but there's always a connection. But that means that sometimes our clients are in Hong Kong or Germany or anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, because I remember one time we were talking, you said something about a Chinese client that you had.
Yeah.
And you had to communicate with them. It was a little bit difficult because of the time situation. But so you can, as long as they have some connection to California, you can help them.
Yes.
Okay. Are you seeing any problems coming up in the future with the current administration? I'm assuming there's something that's going to come up, right?
Yeah. So the other piece of my practice that's really substantial is working, because we work with LGBTQ families, we do a lot of name and gender changes for folks. And so there is definitely a lot of problems happening in the current administration for the trans community. People are not having their gender markers recognized. And so people who've been living their lives as their gender identity for 20, 30 plus years, who have matching birth certificate, matching driver's license, everything has been aligned for decades, are now having to renew their passports and getting a passport with the wrong gender marker on it. That can be really problematic for people when they're trying to travel and they present in one way and have a gender marker that doesn't match how they look to the TSA agent. It can become really problematic. So there's a lot of stuff in that space that's really creating problems with this current administration. There's also a lot of stuff with respect to the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again movement. That is, there are many folks in the MAHA movement who are anti any medical intervention of any kind, which could include IVF. And so we're seeing attacks on IVF, trying to limit access to it, or personhood laws that are trying to make definitions that personhood, that the person begins at conception. So then by definition, when you're creating embryos for IVF, doctors will always try to make more embryos than you currently need.
Sorry, my phone's ringing.
So embryos by definition, right, we need more, right? Because some of them are not going to be viable, some of them aren't going to take. So we try to create as many viable embryos as we can to create the best possibility of pregnancy. Often destroys the end. There's a lot of work from allies in the administration to try to stop that.
Got it. Okay. So I know you're breaking up a little bit. I think hopefully. So how do people get a hold of you?
Excuse me.
How do people get a hold of you if they need your assistance?
Yeah, we're on the internet. We're wherever you can find people. You can find us through our website, allfamilylegal.com. You can call us. You can email. All the usual ways.
Okay. So best way. I'm sorry. What was the website again?
allfamilylegal.com.
Got it. Okay. So what's the biggest struggle that you guys have in your business in general?
So for us, I think it's just a matter of volume. Sometimes we're very lucky. We're very busy. But I think managing a law firm and trying to just know how I'm not very good at saying no. I'm not very good at telling people that we don't have capacity right now, which means that I tend to work till 10 o'clock at night sometimes and be on the phone with people at 7 in the morning. And so I think volume is a thing, but we've been very lucky to be growing in this kind of way. And we're looking to hire a new lawyer right now. So hopefully we'll start to smooth that out a little bit.
And can you tell me I'm sure what you do is fulfilling compared to sometimes what I do, personal injury arena. Tell me about some of the successes that you could talk about that really helps, or that one case that really, that said, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Oh, there's so many. There's so many. We're very lucky, right? Like that's the beautiful part of my work. So I'll give you an example from yesterday. Yesterday, I did an adoption finalization for an adult adoption. And adult adoptions are actually my favorite kind of adoptions to do, because what I tell people is they're 100% love. There's no legal requirement that any adult ever be adopted. But people who come to me who want to do an adult adoption usually say, this person raised me throughout my childhood. They weren't my parent, but they acted like my parent, and everybody knew them as my parent. And I want to honor that. I want to make that legally recognized, and I want to go through an adult adoption. So I absolutely love doing them. And this case in particular, it happened to be that these clients were doing their second adult adoption. The first one was for the adult adoptee's brother. So they had adopted his brother about 7 years ago or so. And when they finished his brother's adoption, they said to me, we're going to be back for his brother. We'll tell you when we're ready for him. And so we did his yesterday, and they were like among my first 10 clients or something at the very beginning. So it was this beautiful full circle moment to get to bring back these clients who were there from very, very early on in my law practice, and get to do another round with them. And I told them at the end, because I love saying this, that I always love watching a grown man cry. So it's very sweet. You get to see this guy being adopted who's in his 40s and is this military guy, big tough guy, and he comes in and the judge asks, why do you want to adopt this person? And they have to say, this is my son, and he's been my son my whole life, and I can't imagine having life any other way. And just getting to watch people share that love and get it legally affirmed is really, really special.
Wow. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us, what else do you do as far as your personal, when you're not practicing law? Tell us about you yourself. What does Amira like to do?
Oh, free time. It's such a rare commodity these days. Well, you probably know this because of our networking group. I'm the moderator of 10 Tasters, which is our wine and cheese networking group. So I love a good wine and cheese. I really like I'm a bit of a foodie. I love discovering different restaurants in LA. And I always tease, like, why have mediocre food? There's so much good food out here. So why bother with the mediocre food? So if you ever need Rex, I'm happy to provide Rex. And yeah, go ahead.
What's your favorite wine or type of wine?
Oh, my favorite type of wine. I really like a Pinot Noir. I really like, there's a Portuguese wine, and it's also a Spanish wine. It's called Mencia in Spain. It's called Jaén in Portugal. Really lovely. I tend to be more of a red drinker, but I have gotten a little spoiled over the years with our 10 tasters. And I recently went to a conference in Santa Fe and went on a wine tour. It was like a wine train. So they took you out on a train, they gave you taste. I'm not sure Santa Fe is where I would recommend you get your wine from. Okay. So I was the only one at the end of the train that was still like, no, thank you. I'm done here.
Yeah, I like Pinot. That's my favorite too. Yeah. Yeah. But I haven't done much wine tasting. I probably need to go one of these days. My wife doesn't drink wine, or she doesn't drink any alcohol at all. So it's usually, it's just me, which makes it a little bit harder.
You're always invited, and no one's forced to drink. And maybe she'll love the cheeses. We have people who just like the cheeses and order the cheeses.
That is true. That is true. So how long have you guys been around?
So I started my law firm in November of 2016. My law partner and I merged just about 2 years ago. And so we're now, we're approaching year 10.
Okay. Where do you guys see the firm going from here?
It's a great question. We just had our owner's retreat last week. So like I said, we are working on hiring another lawyer. It's our hope that eventually we will have estate planning in our firm as well. We really want to be able to have sort of a cradle to grave law firm because my partner does divorce. So we do all aspects of family law within the firm. And we're hoping that we'll be able to, get enough people that we will be able to have a little more work-life balance for our staff and for the lawyers as well. That's the goal.
Okay. How hard is it to people to set up a surrogacy? Is it the matching part of it, finding a donor? Is it just getting started? What's the hardest part?
Yeah, the matching is, I would say, probably the hardest part. There's the emotional aspect of it also, which is really hard, especially for straight couples who weren't anticipating needing a donor or a surrogate. There's a lot of emotions around sort of the grief that you have to go through and letting go of the original idea you've had of how you were going to build your family. But finding a surrogate is not an easy process. There are many, many agencies throughout the country. Some are fantastic, some are terrible. And it's hard to sometimes know which one is which because anybody can throw up a sign, except in the state of New York. In New York, agencies are licensed, but everywhere else, there's no licensing for a surrogacy agency. So anybody can put up a website and say, we're a surrogacy agency now. And you have no idea if they know what they're doing. And so it takes a lot of vetting of the agencies. And then the agencies should be vetting your surrogates. And so it's really, finding the right surrogate. You have to be thinking about where they live, what the law is where they live. Do you match on a variety of aspects? You have some intended parents who say, we absolutely want our surrogate to be vaccinated, and some surrogates who say, I don't want to be vaccinated. Well, that's not a match, right? And you have to talk about things like abortion and when someone might consider selective reduction. So there are a lot of different things that can make somebody a perfectly acceptable surrogate for the right person, but not for this person. And so finding that matching can be really complex.
Oh, wow. Okay. I have a really stupid question, and sorry, I'm gonna ask this question. So let's say somebody wants to get inseminated. Do they get to choose, like whether it's going to be a boy or a girl or anything like that? Or
good question. Okay, so let's tweak a couple things.
Yeah.
So they're not getting inseminated. Typically, gestational surrogacy is IVF. So insemination means we're putting the sperm inside and the person's own eggs are being used. Generally, surrogates don't use their own eggs. There's other person's eggs that are being put inside. So it's IVF, called an embryo transfer. In terms of choosing the gender, that's up to the intended parents. So if the intended parents have tested the embryos and they say, okay, usually they can do XY or XX, right? They can see that in the testing. The intended parents could choose to put only XY or only XX inside of the surrogate. But those testing procedures are not 100% perfect all the time. And so they have to be prepared for the possibility that they might get a surprise that they weren't anticipating.
Okay. So like I said, I know nothing about what you do. So this is fascinating to me.
Yeah. We do have a contract that says you can't terminate because of gender. So if the intended parents find out that the gender of the baby is not what they were hoping for, that's not a reason to ask for an abortion.
Okay. Is it the same way as far as race goes or nationality, stuff like that, or no?
Well, generally, if the intended parents are using their own genetic material, we know what the race and nationality is going to be. But people can choose. People can choose whatever donor they want if they're choosing an egg donor or sperm donor. And it's not uncommon for intended parents to try to choose somebody who looks like them. So, go ahead.
I guess my naivety was so they get to pick who's going to be the intended donor as opposed to going to a sperm bank or.
Well, even if you go to, so we're talking about the intended parents or the surrogate here?
The intended parents. Let's say they go to
Yeah, so the intended parents, if they go to a sperm bank, there's still profiles. I joke around with donors that it's your binders of women, right? So even with the sperm bank, you have all the profiles of all the men who've donated, and you can say, oh, I really like that guy. We'd like his sperm.
Okay. Oh, I see stuff I did not know. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You're not just handed a random vial and $30, please.
I don't know. Go through drive-through. I don't know. I have no idea.
No, there's a lot of people spend a lot of time making that decision, and sometimes it's hard. So, for example, for Black families, there are not a lot of Black sperm donors, and so they might be really limited if they really want a donor who is the same race as them. There might not be a lot of options, and so there are considerations when it comes to race and making those choices.
And how long does it take from somebody from the beginning of they come to you to maybe having the whole process done?
It really depends. Typical lawyer answer, right? If they already have their embryos made and we're just doing, let's say, the surrogacy, well, a pregnancy takes 9 months. But when they get to me, usually they're already matched with a surrogate. So there's the time that's taken to make the embryos and to match with a surrogate. There might be medical screening and site screening that might happen before or after they come to me. So all of that means they could have been in this process for a year before they get to me. And then let's say we're ready for the contracts for the surrogacy. At that point, legal can usually take, writing the contracts, I would say typically takes 4 to 6 weeks. And then they have to start the embryo transfer and trying to get pregnant, and the first transfer might not take. So if things go really smoothly, we might be done in a year. If they don't go smoothly, it could be a year and a half, it could be 2 years. It really depends.
And then how long do you guys stay with them as far as their attorneys go throughout the whole process of the pregnancy, or is just the formation of it?
So we do the contracts at the beginning, and then we still need a judgment from a court that affirms everything that was in the contract. So we'll check in about every 3 months because we like to get started early in the second trimester for that judgment, because we want it back from the courts before the baby decides to make an appearance. And as we say, man plans and God laughs. So we try to have it back by the end of the second trimester, so that even if the baby is early, that we still have that judgment so that the parents can go on the birth certificate immediately. So we'll typically have sort of a heavy period before everything gets started where we write the contracts. And then we'll have sort of a heavy work period in the middle of the pregnancy. And then at the end, we'll usually just check in and say, hey, how'd everything go? Everything's good with the birth certificate. Any questions for us? You want to send us baby pictures? We love those baby pictures. And then we'll kind of wrap it up after that.
Have you ever had a situation where a surrogate says, I'm attached to the baby, I'm not going to give it up?
Never. People think it's like this huge fear that the intended have of like, what if the surrogate doesn't want to give up the baby? I'm telling you, they do a lot of screening to make sure that these are people who are prepared to do that. And every surrogate I talk to says the same thing. They say, I love being pregnant. I want to help another family. This would be great for my family. And I'm done. I don't want my own kids. I have plenty of my own kids. I have tons of surrogates who say to me, what if the intended parents don't take the baby?
Oh, really?
The baby. Everybody's on the same page. Don't worry.
Well, good. Because I could just envision. You always see those in movies, right? That's like a movie script.
Right. Yeah, that's the movie script. And in the extremely rare occurrences when these things happen, it makes the news because it's so rare. So people have it in their head as it being something that happens because it's newsworthy when it does, but it's very rare.
Got it. Okay. So when intended parents come to you, are they just freaked out? Are they afraid? Are they stressed? What are they? All the above?
Yeah, it depends on the family. Same-sex couples tend to be a little bit more relaxed in the process because, again, they were mentally prepared for the possibility that this was going to be how they would form their families. I tend to find that different sex couples who have been through, usually if they're coming to me, they've been through multiple pregnancy losses. They've been through a lot. And so, yes, they are stressed, and they've probably had to ask their doctors a ton of questions to understand everything that was going on. And they've done all the medical research. And now, after all this time of spending all this energy on it, they're literally handing the most precious thing in their entire lives to someone else. And they cannot control that person. That person doesn't live in their house. That person might not even live in their state. And they have to trust that person to take care of their baby for them until the baby's there. So yeah, people are definitely anxious, and that's totally reasonable and understandable.
Okay. Is it harder for same-sex couples to do this as opposed to different sexes, or no?
It depends on the state. In California, our state law is agnostic as to marital status, sexual orientation, genetic connection to the child. All of that is fine. And so it's generally about the same in California, but in other states, they require that both intended parents have a genetic connection to the child, or that the intended parents be married. So those things can complicate things.
Got it. There's a lot of stuff to go through. Holy moly.
Yeah. We haven't even talked about insurance.
Oh, God. All right, we'll talk about insurance. Does insurance kick in at any point?
Yeah, so they have to think about the insurance for the surrogate and whether that will cover a surrogate pregnancy or not. Some insurance companies will specifically say, if this is a surrogate pregnancy, we're going to put a lien on the surrogate's compensation and we're going to take extra money as a result of that. We have to think about the insurance for the baby once the baby's born. It's going to be different because the surrogate is not the parent. So the intended parent's insurance needs to kick in as soon as the baby's born. If they're crossing state lines or if they're coming from another country, that gets really complicated. So it is a whole other piece of the puzzle that has to get figured out.
Wow. And do you guys help with those?
We don't give insurance advice. That's very clear.
Right.
But we do know enough to be able to flag, like, you need to be asking the insurance experts about this and that. There are requirements of things being in the contract. So we need enough information to make sure that the holes have been filled in and that everybody knows what to expect in terms of how it's getting paid for.
Got it. Okay. I have a case where, I don't know if I may have mentioned this to you or not. I usually don't do much medical malpractice, but I do have one medical malpractice case where my client was a surrogate, and the parents are in China.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the baby had some complications when he was born. So a whole lot of stuff going through that thing. But yeah, that's the only thing I know about surrogacy, is that particular one. And it's very tricky.
Yeah. And when something like that happens and there's a complication with the birth and the child, then often intended parents are looking for someone to blame. And sometimes they want to blame the surrogate, and sometimes they want to blame the doctor. And sometimes things just happen, right? And nobody did anything wrong. But of course, especially if you go through what you go through to go through a surrogacy, then you are devastated if something happens. Yeah. Anybody would be devastated if something happened to a child.
Yeah, thank God this one was, the surrogate didn't do anything wrong. My client, it was another issue. Okay, so tell us again how people can get a hold of you if they need your services.
Yeah, allfamilylegal.com. Reach out anytime. We're happy to help.
Okay, and I ask usually on my guests about this question, which is, you meet your 10-year-old self. What do you tell 10-year-old Amira about, based on what you know today? What kind of advice would you give her?
10-year-old Amira.
Could be 12, but usually 10.
Have more fun. Relax. It's all going to work itself out. So don't worry too much.
All right. Well, that's good. Just stay the course. You're doing well. You're going to just make it out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, thank you again so much for being a guest on our podcast. And for everybody else who's listening, please, if you guys have any issues with reproduction or surrogacy or adoption, reach out to Amira. She obviously knows what she's talking about, because I don't, but she knows. Just reach out to her. All Family Legal. And if you like our podcast, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the SCV Law and Life podcast. If today's conversation gave you something to think about, make sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. I'm Mason Roshdian, and I'll see you next time for more conversations on law, life, and what really moves the needle.